Okay, what form do we need this in before we start to solve, Brian? More than that. Standard form. Standard form, more than that? Equals 0, right? You want standard form, meaning let's get all the terms on one side, 0 on the other. That's almost always the starting point. 2x squared plus 6x plus 7 equals 0. Right. Now, once it's in that form, what ways do we have to solve it? Quadratic formula. Sometimes it's factorable, not always. Graphing, right? Those are the three main ways we have to solve it. Which is the only one that always works? Brian, this question. Completing the square. That's another way, but again, when you do quadratic formula, you are doing the completing the square because it's built into it. The only one that always works is the quadratic formula. So you really, I would suggest use quadratic formula. And I want to just, in case you haven't done this, you really should, by the time we take the SOL, get good at this. Because there's going to be probably 5 or 10 questions that this way you enter expressions in the calculator can answer the question for you, especially the stuff we're about to do in Chapter 9, especially. I guarantee you. You know, most of you, if you get those problems right, it's going to be by doing a test-taking strategy, not by doing everything else. But we'll see more of that next week. If I'm going to use quadratic formula here, the formula is this, right? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. What are the values of a, b, and c? So what are the A? Chloe. Right. Remember the A, B, and C don't include the X's. It's just the coefficients, right? 2, 6, and 7. Okay. Now, you can have your calculator do the quadratic formula for you. But I just say before you start, I would recommend that you do this. Go to the mode right there, and 2 things set, right? On the second line, where it says float, highlight the 2. That means it's going to give you 2 decimal places to the right of the decimal point, so that you don't get these numbers that go off the screen, you can't see anything. And then make sure that it's in A plus BI mode, because we know that sometimes when we solve these, we get imaginary numbers for answers. And if you don't have it in that mode, it's just going to give you an error. Yeah. It would give you an error if you have it set on real. And I'll tell you right away, this one has got imaginary answers. So if you don't have it set on A plus BI, you're not going to get it. And if you don't have it set on 2, what happens is the digits run off the screen and you can't even see that there's an I at the end of it. So make sure you've got it in the right mode. And then you need your calculator to understand these values of A, B, and C. Right? So, and like I said, you can use this for any kind of expression, not just the quadratic formula. If you want to store a value for a letter, like I want A to equal 2, then I do this. 2, and this button right here says STO for store, and I hit the wrong thing. 2, store. That gives you a right arrow, and then I hit alpha A. Okay, enter. And now I'm going to store B equals 6. 6, store alpha B. And now 7, store alpha C. Right, now the calculator thinks it knows the values of A, B, and C. We're going to type in, use the alpha keys to type in the quadratic formula, which since you're all like proficient texters, this should be like nothing, right? Record time. Here's the only thing about when you enter a quadratic formula. Be careful with parentheses, right? You need to have the numerator in parentheses, and you need to have the denominator in parentheses. And because it's plus or minus, you can only do one at a time. So, whichever one you start with, then you can do it again. So here I will type it in. Okay, parentheses, negative alpha b plus second square root alpha b squared minus 4 alpha a alpha c, right? Now, to get out of the square root, right arrow, right? Right arrow to get out of that. And then do your right parenthesis, which ends the numerator. Now you can go divided by parenthesis 2 alpha a. Right? If you don't do the parentheses, they'll divide by 2 and multiply times a. You want to divide by 2a. All right, now, when I hit the enter, it's going to do the quadratic formula using the values of a, b, and c, and it gives me an answer. Negative 1.5 plus 1.12i. For most of these kinds of problems, you would probably recognize the answer at this point. First, because it's got an I in it. Some will have I, some won't. And second, because that first number, maybe one of them is negative 1.5 and the other is plus 1.5. Okay, well, you know which one it is. It's the one that's negative. All right, now, to do the minus, because it's plus or minus, then you got to bring up the formula you just typed. You don't want to type it in again. Do this to bring up the formula you just typed. Hit second and the enter button, and it brings up the last thing on the screen that you typed in. And now you can move the cursor over the plus and make it a minus. Enter. Yeah.
Is there any way to store this function?
I don't know. But I would expect that your memories all be cleared before you start the test.
No, but then you can just put it at the start and just change your ABC values.
You mean like when you do it, to just go ahead and do it? There probably is a way to do it. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure if you think hard enough, like there's ways to save things as apps, like in that key there. So you could probably do that. So that's how you can use the quadratic formula, right? Store the A, B, and C, type in the formula. And the thing is, let's say you got more than one problem that use quadratic formula. Once you put it in once, you can always bring it up again by just keep hitting second enter until it comes back on the screen, right? Restore your A, B, and C, second enter until you bring it up, done. Now, like I say, a lot of these you can solve by other